Watch today on My Refuge. She took over the family farm at 29 and defied everyone in rural Idaho.
Imagine answering your phone on a cold February morning while you re-sitting at your desk in a warm Boise office. The smell of fresh coffee from your mug mixing with the faint scent of printer ink and the distant hum of city traffic outside the window. Your mother's voice comes through the speaker, trembling, barely holding back tears. Katie, Grandpa Henry had a massive stroke last night. The doctors don't know if he'll ever walk again or even speak clearly. The farm, the bank is already talking about foreclosure if no one steps in to run it. That single phone call hit 29-year-old Katie Schmidt like a freezing Idaho wind straight to the chest, knocking the air out of her lungs and making the world tilt on its axis. Katie had grown up on that 320-acre dairy farm nestled in the rolling hills of northern Idaho, where the air always carried the rich, earthy mix of fresh alfalfa, warm cow breath, and the sharp tang of pine from the nearby mountains. She remembered the early mornings as a little girl, the wooden floorboards creaking under her bare feet as she followed Grandpa Henry to the milking parlor. The steam rising from the cows' backs in the cold air, the rhythmic sound of milk hitting the metal buckets, the way her small hand fit inside his big calloused one when he lifted her onto the old John Deere tractor. The engine would rumble through her whole body, and Grandpa would point to the snow-capped peaks and say in his slow, steady voice, "This land is our legacy, Katie girl. Never forget that. It's been in the family since 1947, and it'll be here long after we re-gone if we fight for it." Those memories flooded back the moment her mother spoke those words. Katie's bright green eyes filled with tears right there at her desk. The cursor blinking on her unfinished design project, the city sounds suddenly feeling foreign and far away. She could almost smell the barn again, that deep, comforting blend of hay, manure, milk, and wood smoke from the old stove in the farmhouse kitchen. She remembered the way the snow would crunch under her boots when she helped with winter feeding, the cold biting her cheeks. The warm steam from the cows' noses fogging the air, the way Grandpa's laugh would echo across the pasture when a calf took its first wobbly steps. Now, at 29, she was living in a small, modern apartment in Boise, with a good salary as a senior graphic designer, health insurance, weekends off, and a life that felt safe and predictable. But safe suddenly felt empty. The guilt hit her like a physical weight on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She had left the farm at 18 to chase a different dream: art school. City lights, a career where her hands created on a screen instead of in the dirt. She had told herself she was escaping the endless debt, the broken equipment, the 4 a.m. milkings, the way the bank always seemed to be one bad season away from taking everything. But now that escape felt like abandonment. That night, she drove the 2 hours back to the farm in the dark. Snowflakes swirling in the headlights like tiny ghosts, the heater blowing warm air that smelled faintly of pine from the little tree-shaped freshener she kept in the car. The roads were icy, the wipers scraping rhythmically. Her hands gripping the steering wheel so tight, her knuckles turned white. When she finally pulled up to the white 2-story farmhouse, the familiar creak of the wooden porch steps under her boots brought fresh tears. The house was too quiet. Grandpa Henry was in the hospital bed they had set up in the living room, his face pale against the white pillow, the oxygen machine humming softly like a mechanical heartbeat. He looked so small, so fragile, his one strong hands now lying still on the blanket. The next days blurred into a haze of hospital visits, meetings with the bank manager in his stuffy office that smelled of old paper and coffee, and long nights sitting at the old oak kitchen table, with stacks of loan papers spread out under the dim light of the hanging lamp. The debt was staggering over $480,000 in operating loans, outdated milking equipment that broke down every other week, declining milk prices that barely covered feed costs. The bank representative, a man in a crisp suit who had never milked a cow in his life, leaned back in his chair and said calmly, "Miss Schmidt, without someone physically running the operation, we'll have to foreclose. It's just business." Katie felt the words like a slap. She stood at the kitchen window at 5 a.m. the next morning, watching the first gray light touch the snow-covered pastures. The cows lowing in the distance, their breath rising in white clouds. The smell of the old house, wood smoke, coffee grounds. And the faint trace of Grandpa's aftershave wrapped around her like a hug and a burden at the same time. She whispered to the empty room, her voice cracking, "I can't let this place die. Not on my watch. Not after everything Grandpa sacrificed." But the fear was real and heavy. Fear of failing the man who raised her. Fear of the debt crushing her. Fear of proving every skeptical neighbor right that a 29-year-old city girl with no recent farm experience could never handle a full dairy operation alone. The local feed store owner laughed when she went in for supplies, his belly shaking under his overalls. "Darlin', this ain't a hobby farm. Go back to your computer job before you lose everything." The words stung, but they also lit a fire. Katie stood there in the cold aisle, the smell of grain and leather surrounding her, and felt something shift deep inside. She wasn't the little girl anymore. She was the only one left who could fight for this land. Yet the hardest battles were still ahead. Because the first winter alone on the farm would test everything she thought she knew about strength, resilience, and what she was truly made of. The first full day alone on the farm hit Katie like a blizzard she wasn't prepared for. She woke at 4:30 a.m. in the old farmhouse, the wooden floor ice cold under her bare feet. The wind howling outside so loud it rattled the windows. The smell of the house, old wood, faint wood smoke from the stove, and the lingering scent of Grandpa. Henry's aftershave wrapped around her like both a comfort and a heavy responsibility. She pulled on her oversized flannel, the fabric still carrying the faint barn smell from the previous day, laced up her work boots, and stepped outside into the freezing darkness. The snow crunched loudly under her soles, the cold biting her cheeks and making her eyes water instantly. The milking parlor was dark and freezing. The old equipment groaned and sputtered as she turned it on, the pipes clanging. The smell of sour milk and disinfectant hitting her like a wave from her childhood. One of the older cows, Bessie, looked at her with big, calm eyes, as if asking, "Where's Henry?" Katie's hands trembled as she attached the milking machines, the metal cold against her fingers. The rhythmic sucking sound filling the barn while steam rose from the cows' warm bodies in the cold air. She talked to them softly, her voice echoing off the metal walls. "It's just you and me now, girls. We're going to figure this out together." By 7 a.m., her back was already aching, her fingers numb from the cold, and she still had to feed the calves, repair a broken gate in the lower pasture, and call the feed supplier who had already threatened to cut off credit. The wind never stopped. It whipped across the open fields, driving snow horizontally, making the mountains disappear behind a white wall. Every step through the deep snow took effort, her boots sinking, the cold seeping through her jeans. At one point, she slipped on ice near the irrigation ditch, landing hard on her knee, the pain shooting up her leg. She sat there in the snow for a moment, tears freezing on her lashes, and whispered to herself, "Grandpa did this every day for 60 years. I can't fail him." The bank called again that afternoon. The loan officer's voice was polite but firm. "Miss Schmidt, without consistent production, we'll have to move forward with foreclosure proceedings." Katie stood in the kitchen, phone to her ear, the smell of the coffee she had just made turning bitter in her mouth. She looked out the window at the barn, the snow piling higher on the roof. It felt the full weight of 320 acres pressing down on her 29-year-old shoulders. She had no experience running the books, no crew, no one to call at 2 a.m., when a cow went into labor. The neighbors watched from a distance, some offering half-hearted advice, others openly doubting her. One older farmer even said, "A pretty girl like you should be raising kids, not trying to raise cows." That night, she sat at the kitchen table under the dim hanging lamp, the same table where she had eaten pancakes with Grandpa Henry as a child, the wood worn smooth from decades of use. Papers and bills were spread everywhere. She cried quietly, the tears dripping onto the numbers that wouldn't add up. The house creaked around her, the wind whistling through the old windows, the loneliness so thick she could feel it in her chest. She picked up an old photo of her grandfather standing proudly in front of the barn in 1978. His smile wide, and whispered, "I'm trying, Grandpa. I'm really trying." But in the middle of that darkness, small sparks appeared. A neighbor she barely knew dropped off a load of hay without being asked. Another farmer's wife brought a casserole and stayed to help with evening milking. The two women working side by side in silence. The warm steam from the cows and the sound of milk hitting the buckets creating a small island of solidarity. Katie felt the first tiny thread of hope. Not that it would be easy, but that she wasn't completely alone. Because spring would bring new life, new debts, and a choice that would decide the future of the entire farm. Spring arrived in northern Idaho like a quiet promise kept. The snow began to melt, revealing the green pastures that had been hidden for months. Katie stood on the porch at dawn, the warm sun touching her face for the first time in months. The air filled with the sweet smell of wet earth, fresh alfalfa, and the distant lowing of the cows. Her hands were rough and calloused now, her body stronger from months of hard work. But her green eyes carried a new light, the light of someone who had fought and was beginning to win. The turning point came slowly but surely. Katie had spent the winter learning every inch of the farm the hard way, fixing broken pipes in the milking parlor at 3 a.m. with frozen fingers, the cold metal burning her skin, the steam from the cows warming her face as she worked. She had cried in the barn more times than she could count, the smell of hay and manure mixing with her tears, but she kept going. She called old neighbors, asked for advice, read books by flashlight at night, the pages turning under her tired hands. She sold some of the older equipment and invested in better feed. So the sound of the tractor engine now a sign of progress instead of fear. By late spring, the farm was showing signs of life again. The fields turned bright green. The irrigation ditches flowed with clear water. The smell of fresh cut hay filling the air as she drove the old tractor across the pasture. The engine rumbling through her body like a heartbeat. The cows produced more milk. The calves grew strong, and the bank noticed. The loan officer who had once threatened foreclosure now called with a new payment plan, his voice respectful for the first time. Neighbors who had doubted her began to stop by, first to check on her, then to help. An older farmer taught her how to repair the milking equipment, his rough hands guiding hers, the smell of grease and sweat mixing in the barn. A woman from the next valley brought her family to help with the first cutting of alfalfa, the laughter of children running through the fields echoing across the land. Grandpa Henry, now back home in a wheelchair on the porch, watched with tears in his eyes as Katie worked his thin hand, reaching out to squeeze hers, the warmth of his skin reminding her why she had fought so hard. Today, 2 years later, the 320-acre farm is thriving. The barn has a new red roof that shines in the sun. The milking parlor runs smoothly with updated equipment, and Katie sells milk, cheese, and beef directly to local families and restaurants. She has become a quiet leader in the valley, mentoring other young women who want to stay on the land. Her voice steady when she speaks at farm meetings, her green eyes full of the same determination that saved the farm. Katie still wakes at 4:30 a.m., but now it is with purpose. She stands on the porch with a cup of coffee, the warm steam rising, the mountains glowing pink at sunrise. The smell of the land filling her lungs, and she smiles. The farm is no longer a burden. It is her home, her legacy, her refuge. Katie's story reminds us that the land belongs to those who refuse to let it go, who show up every day even when it hurts, who fight for what their grandparents built. Sometimes the greatest courage is simply staying and trying again. If this story touched something deep inside your own heart, I'd be truly grateful if you gently tapped the like button. It helps these real stories of American resilience reach more people who need them. And when the moment feels right for you, subscribing and turning on notifications means you'll be here with us at My Refuge for every new tale of transformation and second chances on the land. If the spirit moves you, I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. What does refuge mean to you? Is it a piece of land you dream of? A garden that brings you peace? A slower life you long for? Or simply the feeling of coming home to yourself? We read every single comment, and they matter more than you know. Sharing this video with one person who might need hope today, that would be the kindest thing you could do. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for spending this time with Katie and with us here at My Refuge. Until next time, may you find your own refuge wherever it may be waiting for you on the land.